So I guess for any captions and stuff like that, I'll just reintroduce myself. Andrew Peterson, Director of Online Learning. I think it said it the same way both times. Director of E-Learning, Interim Executive Director of Online Learning, just designer. I think I've been called all those things in the last 3 years. So it's been a fun journey. Hello, welcome. And so we're here to talk kind of a little bit about the game that I designed and what we're going to do. And ideally, 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 8 people. We have 2 4-player games set up. This worked out mathematically wonderful. Because I'd really like to not talk about a game, and if we could play a game, that'd be a lot more fun. I guess I'll just give the quick little intro to it on how this kind of started off. So I was teaching a class at Ferris, and it's the class you have to take if you've failed out. So if you fail out of the class, university dismisses you, you say, please, 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 can I come back? I'll be good, I promise. They make you take this class. The class was designed with almost a punitive curriculum. Like it was a 1-credit class and you had to do a research paper on the history of Ferris. And I was like, oh dear God, why would you do that? This is, no, Ferris, Woodbridge Ferris, the founder of Ferris State University. I can go into a whole long spiel on this if you like. And so it was a punitive class for students who had already not succeeded in traditional classroom environments. Ding, ding, ding. Exactly. So I've also learned as an adjunct, quite often the amount of oversight that goes into what you do in class is very minimal. And so I'm like, hey, let's not do any of that. And having been a game designer and having taught the game design class, I'm like, we're going to make college the game. And this is about, honestly, maybe 5 weeks into this class. Because you're kind of learning who the students are, you're learning who the people are. And I'm learning that what was prescribed wasn't working. So I defaulted back to my game designer self and said, okay, this is how we're going to run this class from now on. And all of a sudden, I had students that would engage and debate with me about what college was. So if I said, hey, what's the most challenging thing that you had in college? Nobody looks at me, nobody acknowledges me, nobody cares that I'm up here, nothing at all. If I make a game and I go, if you drink alcohol, you get -1 to your roll. They go, that's at least a -2, you're an idiot. And I go, oh, okay, let's talk. Why is that? What does that do? What does that? So one of the aha moments for me was I was like, okay, there's gonna be a drugs card. And if you do drugs, you get -10 points. And if there's gonna be an alcohol, and alcohol is like a -3 points. And they're like, no. Other way around. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. Why is this your experience? And they were like, if you give me $20, I can have a 5th of Jack Daniels waiting for you outside the hall at the end of class. And they're like, okay, how many of you here know someone that drank themselves out of college? Everybody raised their hand. I said, how many of you know where drugs are around campus? And they were like, well, it's here, it's a thing, but it's kind of an underground, it's not super pervasive. And so they said, just because of the culture and the availability of alcohol, it was so much more influential. And these are the discussions that I was dreaming to have with these students, but they wouldn't have that conversation with me. As a game designer, they would totally tell me I was wrong, and this is why. And then there was this great back and forth and discussion, and I'm like, that's my dissertation. I want to make the game that's complex enough that they can spend time learning it, and then spend the rest of the class fixing it.
Intentionally designing it wrong?
Kind of. I mentioned this earlier. I go, here is a 45-year-old white guy, my perception of college. That's just by its nature wrong. It's something that's designed from a very traditional standpoint, but the mechanics behind it are variable enough that you can modify it to meet your expectation. I had one student that was like, you need to have a parking lot on campus. It's like, it takes me 15 minutes to find a parking lot every time, and I want to be able to have that in there. I'm like, sweet. I never thought about that. I lived on campus all the time. It wasn't an issue for me. So the idea of incorporating a parking lot into a board game for a campus never was even part of my thought process because I wasn't a commuter. This student, that was a huge issue, and he's like, oh yeah, I've run out of gas, I've been stuck in snowbanks, I've had the car not start, I've had, and listed off like 7 or 8 variables that impacted his educational experience. I didn't, but I want that discussion to happen in class to go, what's your backup travel plan? How are these students planning around this? So if we could kind of come down, I don't know if we want to try and sit 4 or 5 to a table. So I think one of these was a beta one also.
They're all good.
So I did actually, one of the design discussions what was if people were playing themselves. And I decided really early on that I didn't want people to feel that this was them, because you're gonna fail classes. There's a lot of RNG in here. There's a lot of just, the game design is not meant to be balanced. It's meant to get to learning objectives. And so I've got really good learning objectives with really horribly balanced gameplay. So how this works is everyone will get a character card. Yours looks a little bit different over there. I probably should have set some out that were the same. So this one over here is the beta prototype. This one over here is a little bit more polished. And you'll have 5 little meeples. Oh, sorry. So how many of you have played Lords of Waterdeep? Very much a worker placement game. You have your people, they represent your actions. On the left-hand side of the board, you have your enrollment phase. So that's where you can meet with the advisor and you can enroll in classes. So you can decide who is the first player. I used to have a mechanic for that, but I decided that it was just distracting and I let groups pick. I forget what it was. It was like the last person to get an A. But basically, you take your meeple and you would put it in one of the spots, either at the up at the degree or in the individual classes. If you put it in the individual classes, you'll see the top number is 3, then 2, then 1. That's based on class availability. So if you put your meeple at the top of the English, you draw 3 English cards, and these are the availability of classes. You have a difficulty. So this one has a difficulty level of 2, and this has a difficulty level of, they're numbered 2 through 10. And if you look at the degree requirements, different degrees require different classes. So there's some green, some yellow, some red. And that's basically how you will have to graduate.
Like you're enjoying it.
Actually, one thing I forget, and this is almost by design, is at the start of every round, everybody has to pick up a debt token.
Oh, no.
No, not at all.
They tell you, don't.
So
You just like 10%.
I don't do this on purpose, but it's amazing the number of people that forget debt. And they forget that as a mechanic, and they forget that in life, and they forget that as part of their educational experience, because it's just on the side. It has no impact on the game until the very end. So you just have to remember to be picking it up every turn. And almost every time I see a group, I'm like, oh, did you guys pick up debt this? Oh, no. And I go, that's kind of that learning objective. That's reinforcing that there is debt piling up here. I've had other students that are like, almost triggered by they get toward the end and they're like, I can't get the class that I need, and I just keep picking up more and more debt. right, just table flip.
Exactly. We are done
One of the game design ideas that I did have is a student wanted to play with a full ride scholarship that they never had to draw a debt card until they failed their first class. And I was like, oh, I like that one. And it made it so they would only take like 1 or 2 classes because they were like super risk averse.
Is the debt just tuition?
Yeah, it's just.
Pre-med and pre-law are different from others.
Oh, 100%. Yep. This is very much a traditional 4-year bachelor's-ish. I've also been requested a community college version of this. So what does it look like as a 2-year environment with non-traditional environment?
Shading some of that.
Oh, sure. Yep.
For a better job, does that mean you don't take a debt token?
You get to give one back. But it also, well, I won't get into that. So basically you play out the left-hand side of the board. So you use all of your meeples to enroll in classes and to get your degree. So you should be able to go through here, just kind of take turns, place them on what you want. I highly recommend getting a degree so you have a path, so you know what you should be.
So on a 4-player game, not everybody can get a degree the first round.
Yep. So there's definitely a priority for meeting with your academic advisor so that you're in a degree program. And that's by design that you want to come down? If not, that's fine.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay.
Of course, not everyone finishes their degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I think proof in television now.
So there is no, you could play this for 10 rounds and never get a degree, or finally get a degree, or just give up and walk away. Yeah, you're right. So basically it's designed so you meet with your academic advisors and enroll in classes. So let's go ahead and we'll do that first. If you want to go ahead and kind of run through and place your meeples. Yes. So I believe it was, yep, so one at a time. And when you put your meeple down, go ahead and do what the card says. So I believe it's draw 3 and pick one. So when you place your meeple there, go ahead and, I forget if it was draw 2 or draw 3. Okay. What's that? So you draw, I believe you draw 3.
All benefits, honors, religion.
Oh no, it doesn't say that there. So it is, you draw 3 degrees and then you get to pick one. And that should mimic, basically you meet with an academic advisor, you discuss what your hopes and dreams and futures would like to be, and then you pick one. They are all obscenely well balanced as far as difficulty and number of courses and stuff like that, which isn't necessarily true to form, but also.
All right.
And then with this one, if you notice, 2 have to be hard and 2 have to be medium. That's the only one that's a little bit different because education is kind of everything.
Yeah.
So after you've picked out the degree, go ahead and start enrolling in classes. If you put your meeples toward the top first, you have a higher class availability. So like when you put a meeple on the 3 number, you get to draw 3 cards and pick one of them. If you put it on the 2, you draw 2 and pick one of them. If you put it on the 1, you basically get that card. So that is going to represent your course load for that semester.
Do I put all mine and then she puts all?
Nope,
hers?
one at a time. One at a time. Otherwise, it would be really advantageous to go first because you'd be like, I enroll in everything. Yep, and it should, you kind of want it to make sure it matches what you're looking. Yep, so this is a really easy elective. Yep, you take that there and then you put the other ones on the bottom. Yep, so that one you still have to do 2 medium and 2 hard.
Work my job.
So when you put that there, go ahead and draw 3. And then pick one of them.
Can I use my hard class count for an easy class, or does it have to?
It can always be harder. So if you wanted to take the absolute hardest English class there was and count that as your easy one, that's okay. You can't do it inversely though. It's like if you take the 400 chemistry with a lab, they count it as a intro to science.
So I'm acknowledging this game space here. It's the socialized universe. And so we are now going to do it as if we have that freedom. Because
So we don't play on this side yet. Sorry, it's just the left-hand side. So you can't get a job yet.
What do because I couldn't take it to grade level.
So you can just enroll in classes. You can just kind of spread out and take gen eds because everyone will require at least one class.
oh yeah, okay.
Probably want to take that for
That makes sense. Okay, yeah, so
Is there any reward for taking harder classes? Or if you're not-
Personal enrichment.
Nothing.
So it is obviously the harder classes for certain degrees are required. Otherwise, honestly, no. You also don't have to spend all of your meeples. So if you want to only take 2 or 3 classes, that's fine. If you've got 3 really hard classes, don't take that 4th class. Yep, till the meeples are gone or until everyone passes.
Fine.
I think you just take 2 cards, like the number.
Yeah.
Yep, because classes are starting to get filled up.
Accountant, probably not.
I think that's what Weird Al got his degree in, wasn't it? I thought it was an accountant. It was one of those that make you go, really?
Hey, well, you know,
All the mistakes.
See, and that's honestly the goal more than anything else, because
To relive my past trauma?
kind of. Well, to acknowledge that trauma and go, that was part of this experience. I ended up taking all sorts of classes that weren't related because I had to, because that's what was left. And I was like,
So I feel like there's another mechanic that's gonna come into play that I don't know about that would impact my decision making on my last meeple.
not yet.
You made a comment about like if you've got 3 hard classes, you don't want to take a 4.
Yeah, looking at the 8 and the 8, and I wouldn't take another one. That's so to pass the classes, you're gonna have to start rolling higher than your number.
Oh, I didn't know that.
How many students know that?
I mean, I already told you my fail.
The second time I took stats, it was so much more fun.
I'm not gonna put my last meeting.
Okay.
hey, well,
All right, so are we good over here? Okay, so now everybody draws, actually, you might want to shuffle the event deck first. So I don't want to, responsible for your fate.
Load it, you loaded it.
No, if I did, there's one card in there called Therapy Dogs that gives everyone like a +1 to their dice rolls.
Sent a therapy dog email out to the students, and I'm like, you gotta tell them.
Okay, has everyone done all their people? All right, go ahead and shuffle up the event deck. Okay, everybody take 1 event card.
Probably more than you do.
So this one is the beta one, so I apologize that the artwork is still, you get to see it in the raw form there. Would you like?
-1 bit.
Okay. So you have lab fees.
Oh, my card.
So you get an extra debt token, which,
oh,
I feel like I can save mine.
he's a web designer.
Supposed to take some there.
what's that?
Tokens are for like each class or.
So we drove one of them. Go ahead and pick up all your meeples so that the meeples get reused for the next phase too.
Okay, so you get that debt back.
Go ahead and pick up all your meeples.
And then I get Plus run a history scroll.
Don't forget the people.
So now that we're on, basically, now you've enrolled for all your classes, now you have to prioritize how you're going to spend your time over the semester. So in order to pass a class, you have to roll higher than the difficulty number. Yep. Oh, come on. A 1, a 1, and a 2. It's almost statistically impossible for you to fail. So you're going to go in the same order that you went for enrolling in classes and put your meeples by the dice that you want to roll. So if you notice, there's a 10-sided, an 8-sided, and 3 6-sides for each subject area. You have to roll the subject area for the class that you're in. The only exception to that is electives. Electives you can roll any dice for. You can also get a job. So if you wanted to, you could place your meeple for the get a job and you can give a debt token back. You can use the library study group, which is the only dice that you can roll after you've rolled all the other dice. So that's like a magic 4 points or 1 to 4 points that you can add to any other roll that you had after you've rolled them all. And there's also the cram dice, which you can add to any one, but if you get a 1 to 5 on it, you automatically fail the class. If you get a 6 to 10, you get to add those points in. And that's how the semester would work. So if you want to go ahead and start prioritizing your studying. And now go ahead and take the dice and put it on which one you want to enroll in, okay?
You got easy ones, so you don't really need the, whatever.
Now you're just playing competitively. Yep, so you would put that here.
There's no.
So elective can be any color. So elective is kind of the wild, and so you can use any color or combination of color of dice to pass electives. Yep, so you pick that one up and then you would assign it to a class. So this represents the time and effort and priority that you're putting into specific classes.
I will have to go to library study group for the 10.
Or you can also use multiple dice on one. So you could go to English twice and you could roll both a 10 and an 8 to try and pass. So I don't know if I made that clear. So for the harder ones, you might want to put multiple dice on one card. So you could put 2 red dice on one of your red.
So if the dice ran, if the dice ran out before you had got to place all of yours, what?
So basically, you're having to prioritize what you're going to study, and that represents kind of what you can do. So like you could put another red dice on like your 6-sided one. You have to have another dice there if you want to try and pass.
What I'm saying is like now nobody else, now there's no more spots for you.
Right. So
Somebody had an English.
that's kind of the, so like there's no way, well, you might be able to cram your way through it.
No, I'm not doing things right. What's wrong?
The symbolism for me is I took the hardest ass possible
Ah.
class this year.
There we go. I'm not paying attention to that. Oh, no, that's, okay. I know what I'm doing. I've played games before. This is an elective, it can be anything. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I got confused.
So
That was-
it might work better to take like this dice for that elective, because it's a 10-sided. Because you don't need the red. The red is just for the English.
that one there.
Mhm.
We keep, let's see, if we keep going.
Oh,
I have a question.
Sure.
This, when I get it, do I already allocate it?
Nope,
or
so
can I save
that
it?
one you save, that's like one of my co-designers for this was the librarian at Ferris. And so he's like, yeah, you got to make the library a cool wild card. I'm like, okay, that's fair.
Wild card.
So with the 4-sided dice, you get to spend that after you've rolled everything else. So like, let's say he gets a 4 on this one. He can then decide to use this one for this one. What's that?
I already like put 2 in the history. And then no spelling English.
So you'd want to put a,
I want to make this history as well.
so this one's going to be, you need electives.
Uh-huh.
So it's not going to be history, it's just going to be one of your electives.
Oh, okay.
So it'll count for basically that yellow one, even though it's red. So you took a really hard elective.
These two for history, yeah. And then one for elective. Right?
Yep.
It could be, yep. Yeah, there you go.
So this is, so I got a history elective.
Yeah.
Can I put multiple colors on an elective and call it interdisciplinary?
Yep, definitely. So electives, you can use any color dice on.
So I can put this one here as well.
Yep, so the electives are whatever you want.
Score.
So after everyone's put out all their meeples, you roll your dice and try and get over the difficulty level.
Okay.
Every successful one, you basically keep that card as like part of your transcript. For any that you fail, you put back into and you take a debt card or a debt token.
You failed.
So you'd get to put a debt token back.
We don't have the tokens yet, but
We didn't take it.
So when you first enrolled in classes, everyone should have taken one debt, and you would have put one back. So.
and with this part, can I put one side?
Mm-hmm.
You failed, whatever that is. Shakespeare class, okay, well, yeah, you know, the professors, what are you gonna do? Okay, so, I'm going to, so I can choose when to roll this. I'm gonna really try and get my heart.
Good luck, everybody.
Clear it.
Good luck.
Yes, I did. 13.
Woohoo!
So that helps. So my transcript.
So after you've got all your dice, go ahead and roll them, and try and see what you pass.
History study group, you rolled at a +1.
Yep. So that passed.
I got this. This is my hardest.
Pass this, but not pass this.
So any class that you did not pass, put back into the bottom of the deck and pick up one debt token.
How do we use this one?
So go ahead and roll it. So this one, whatever the bottom number is. So if you rolled this, see how it's a 4 on the bottom?
Right?
So it would be a 4. For any class you did pass, that becomes part of your transcript, and you keep that with your degree.
Fail for one point.
Yep,
So 2 fails, 2 go in.
yep. Just in case anyone has done it, after you have passed one of each type of card, so the math, science, history, English elective, you get a special feature for your character. So there's like a black diamond card, and that's kind of your hidden traits. After you've had one of each class, you figure out what you're good at. And then it basically resets. So now it's the start of the next semester. Everybody picks up a debt token, and you start enrolling in classes with a new first character.
I have to have 2 cards in the beginning.
Oh,
What do you mean a new first character?
What's that?
What do you mean new first character?
So who went first last time?
Oh,
So whoever went first last time, a different person is going to go first.
Yeah.
you don't need another degree.
You can switch degrees if you want to. You have to pick up a debt token and you sacrifice one of the cards that you already earned if you want to switch degrees.
You can switch degrees. You
Yep.
can switch degrees.
That usually comes into play after people figure out what they're good at. So when they unlock that diamond card, it might be like, oh, you get -2 to all your math rolls, and you're majoring in accounting.
You're moving.
Right, and then, let's see here.
Oh, we're over here.
Yep.
We're- Yeah. You got to put back the ones you failed and keep the ones you
okay.
passed.
Yep.
Well, you're
Realize we did a pretty hard time.
Yeah. If you fail-
So did you pass any card? Did you pass any class? Okay, that one. I know people that had a freshman year like that too.
Take the classes first and then.
How did you manufacture it?
What's that?
How did you manufacture the prototype?
So there's a company called the Game Crafter.
This is Game Crafter.
Yep.
Those of us who are.
So, honestly, this is what I have my students do. So in that intro to game design, the DAGD 150, this is their final assignment, basically. They have to,
Like the graphic design?
no, so they make their own games. I didn't do student labor for this. Although, no.
When you said that was their final project.
So it's a similar final project. They basically have to have it all designed and play tested within 10 weeks. And then I give them a ship date. And they have to meet ship date because for their final, it's an unboxing.
Oh, that's cool.
It works.
You actually have it produced at Game Craft?
Yep.
No, I
No.
don't know. I can't determine your life for you.
You guys steal one of your math problems. That's what-
I've read it.
So it's funny that there's a certain competitive nature in some students that make this a PvP game that I've seen. And I kind of go, but that doesn't, you're a history major. And they go, yeah, but I know that they're going to fail now. Ha. And you're like, ouch. Right? Yep. Well, and then you have the discussion about, you think of like very highly competitive educational environments.
Useless class. Yeah, good. But I already have. This is one that I already successfully completed, so it's just useless to me. It just means that I will be having to take this for my own pleasure.
Personal enrichment.
Yes. But not really study.
Oh, no.
Weird.
Oh,
Can I take none of?
no, you have to take one. That's the one mechanic that I struggled with because it is, you need to take something, and as long as you put the meeple there, you could very quickly end up with a class of like, or a semester of like 2. And so I wanted to make it that you had to basically be full-time status.
Hard English class, it's hard. It is a neat deck.
Do you secretly hate?
So they all have the exact same distribution. And this was another one of those like game designer. I wanted to inject a lot of my personal bias toward difficulty levels, but
We should take these back.
I
We're
didn't.
not-
It is perfectly mathematically balanced, the same distribution curve of easy to hard for each of
It
them.
would just be like, the science deck is like all the same, except then there's the organic.
Yep.
Like, this is the favorite.
How do I roll a 20? You don't.
Classes, I don't, and I'm
I was like,
still sitting in a bad position from.
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Differential
screwed
equations
because
are
I saw them because there's only one
for the STEM degree.
to
Yeah.
the left, right? Like,
I'm sorry, because I didn't really think about my.
When I'm supposed to like get that. But now I read the word that's it.
Yeah.
Math.
Then player 1 starts out.
Yeah.
Very good.
Taking the.
So I think we'll go ahead and when you're done with there, we'll finish out the rules and then we'll have a quick little debrief because time is up. So this is designed to play in just about 50 minutes. What I have found is that the first time any group plays, it's almost double that. So really in a classroom and setting, you almost have to have like a half tutorial day where they just learn some of the basic mechanics.
Very tough, everything this time.
I know which way circles go.
Oh wait, you taught me the other way though.
Put that already.
I do keep trying to go counterclockwise.
This is a creation story.
My brain is broken.
I was just contemplating my strategy and then like, it seems like nonsense, but,
Andrew,
Yeah, yeah.
is there a role for the quality of your advice?
Wait, do you have to declare equals? or-
No, you don't have to. There isn't. But again, that's what I like about this is that you could have like that first advisor, one could give you 10. And they really,
Give you a really good strategy
Yep.
if they're a great advisor, or they can.
yep, or they might even,
Take your gen eds for just a freshman.
yep. And that's, so really my goal here was to make a game that was complex enough to allow for infinite modifications. Because it's really just supposed to be, it's
I'll wait to hear the debrief, but it's pretty authentic in terms of.
the experience, yeah. And that's, it was really hard to be like game designer versus learning objective. Because as the game designer, you want it perfectly balanced and you want this nice arc and you want all of these different elements in there that make a good game.
Yeah.
As the educator, I want to nail every learning
But as
objective.
the game designer, you want to be fair too.
Right.
I think that was really insightful for you to say, yeah, some people think science is hard, but for geeks, it's
Right.
through that writing class in English.
Right, yeah, I've got, the game design program has equal number of artists and coders. And you watch the artists, they have to take one coding class. And holy cow, it's like,
Exactly.
Yep.
It's your mindset.
Yep. And like-
Sometimes it might even be matched with your skill set.
yep,
But it's something else. You've been advising yourself when
Right.
you're scared of it.
yeah. No, it's been a fun challenge and I enjoyed it. And I really like to see it in the classroom just because it creates all that conversation.
I'm so eager. Left anyway, so.
You can totally cram.
Yeah, that didn't work out for me.
I'm just here to give bad advice and to help you experience college.
I mean, this is where if you don't have the dice, then you fail it and take on the debt.
There does become a point where there's almost like a sacrificial lamb where you're like, there's no way I'm going to get to that class.
I have been that teacher. So just go through and do your own poll.
That's an interesting balance point. Is it better to see? I got six.
I'm retaking this exam. Retake it.
Did you draw an event card this time too?
We skipped the back.
Okay. Yep, because it might help your role.
I don't understand
So-
when these come into play.
So there's some that play right away, and it should say like right in the middle of it, like say play immediately or play now or play anytime. So this one is just whatever's on top.
+1 debt token for everyone,
Oh, okay.
so it has to be played now.
Yep, some of them are just bad things happen.
This supposed English major just failed her second English.
I failed the math class.
We initially, one of the design choices early on also was that there was just going to be a pile of failed classes rather than picking up the additional debt for it, and that got too depressing. And that's just part of the randomness of the rolling the dice.
All right, we're all done after this turn.
Yeah, I think we're almost at the, actually, we're probably past the time now. I think this goes to 1:45. All right, 2-minute wrap up. So one of the things that you said to do is give a good debrief, during the keynote. And so we've got 2 minutes, so let's talk. So
We abolished debt at our table, it felt good.
So that's the whole goal of the game itself, is to make a game that's complex enough that's pretty easy to learn. There's kind of a flow to it. What I found is usually after you've gone through 2 or 3 semesters, the game like triples in speed. People can just start play, go, and it flows through a session pretty well. In a freshman seminar class, basically what you just experienced is going to be the first day. So everyone learns how to play, they learn the basic mechanics, they learn kind of what I've designed as college the game. The first assignment then becomes to go, okay, rewrite the events. Look through the event deck that had the most fun doing that. What do you think, what should be other events? How would you modify this game? And that's where you kind of get them to think about their college experience, think about what they've experienced so far, what they think they might experience, and to make a bunch of index cards that are now events. The next time you play the game, you shuffle up their index cards and you have them play with that. And you keep iterating the game throughout the whole semester.
Does this upset any of that? because they're all students that have failed a class, right? That's why they're.
So that was initially. This is now moved into like the Gen Ed US 1 credit. Everybody has to take it. And it's replaced a series of 12 PowerPoints that tell you not to do drugs, that tell you time management, that tell you to study, that tell you all the stuff that everybody knows they should be doing anyway. And then they just don't. This gets them more into the discussion, into the debate of why might you? Well, I had to not go to this class because I had to pass this other class. That was a choice I had to make. So
What is included in drugs?
in what?
What is drugs? What are
Buddy.
drugs? What are drugs?
A generic evil term that is like from like my 1980s DARE programming. So and that one actually, no, I don't think I ever put it into the events. Just because it was like you said, you know, sometimes prescription drugs, you better be doing that, otherwise you're not a functional human. Like that, you just,
Yeah.
so,
Some think that's where their brain comes
Yeah.
from.
right. And the whole goal of making this game was a very vanilla, kind of plain game experience that could be modified. Because I wanted this to be, oh, look, there's degrees, there's classes, there's effort, and there's debt.
And not off the market at all. Even though that one a bit more realistic.
What we're taking away from this session is that you got your students to tell you where to find the drugs. That's
Well, the Jack Daniels outside the class was the easy one. The other one was too hard and wouldn't really modify it. Yeah,
who's got money for.
right?
Time to make connections with drugs.
I've got a bottle. Let's go.
So thank you one and all for playing. Yep.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, I was speaking to game designers, and part of our projects, we're designing, just designing board games. And the students made a game that was college life, the experience.
Okay.
That has shockingly similar mechanics to this.
So I did kind of a lit review of other college games. And it is, there's a lot of them that are
Yeah.
quite similar. More often than not, though, it's roll and go.
Yeah.
So it's roll dice, move to it, and oh, you landed on the student university center, you have to.
No, this one, the one that they designed had a similar sort of thing with the different, different dice levels.
Okay.
And different ways that you had to choose to spend your time resources. Very interesting.
That sounds like good game
I-
designers.
They did a good job. They concluded though that while the game was complex and interesting, it wasn't fun.
Right, and so honestly, I did the same thing. And that was kind of like one of those very early on decisions that you're like, you're never going to have a college experience game that is also fun.
Right.
Like yeah, I had to get over that super quick. Yeah, yeah.
The competitive element would make it more fun.
But
You could play to make sure somebody else fails.
oh yeah, you want to be the
Hurt their lab activity.
you want to be the traitor faculty member that.
Yeah. And the fact that some might be athletes and there might be faculty who support them and
I did have
faculty who reject them and make them work twice as hard.
one group of students suggested a student athlete role
And
that would always take on.
they'd have the debt, but they'd have these other pressures.
Yep, one of the meeples would always have to go to a sports section
Yeah,
every.
yeah, right,
Yep,
right. The time management
Yep.
would be the issue.
yep.
Yeah, that'd be